Topic 3, Inspecting the Truck, Course Breakdown. This course will be broken out into 4 videos. Topics in this course include Inspection Regulations and the DVR, Video 1, Inspection Practices, Video 2, Inspecting the Truck, Video 3, Inspecting the Trailer, Video 4, Inspecting the Truck. This lesson takes you through the 6 inspection areas on the power unit portion of a combination vehicle, including the front of the vehicle, engine area, driver and passenger doors, rear and cab area. After completing this topic, you will be able to describe the areas to inspect as you approach the vehicle and in the engine area. Explain how to check the condition of fluids, belts, and hoses. Explain what to look for when inspecting brakes, suspension, wheels, and tires at each axle. Describe what to check for at the rear of the tractor and in the cab area. Subtopics in this section include inspection points, preparing for the inspection. Step 1, approach the vehicle. Step 2, the engine area, fluids, belts, and hoses, engine components, suspension and brakes, wheels, rims, and tires. Steps 3 and 5, driver and passenger sides of the vehicle. Step 4, the rear of the tractor. Step 6, the cab area. Topic 3, Review, Inspecting the Truck. Inspection points. There is no rule about how you and Mac should complete an inspection as long as you check all the required components and systems. Mac is going to do the following. Inspect the tractor. Couple it to his trailer. Complete the inspection of the trailer. As you and Mac complete the inspection, you should be checking for the following 5 characteristics. 1. All components must be properly mounted and secured. 2. All nuts and bolts securing a component must be present and tight. 3. Components must not be cracked, bent, or broken. 4. For anything made of rubber, the component should have no abrasions, bubbles, cuts, or dry rot. 5. For anything that has air flowing through it, hoses, pipes, etc., there should be no leaks. Remember, the most frequent violations found by roadside inspectors can be remembered using the acronym BLT, brakes, lights, tires. As you do your inspection, pay special attention to these components. Preparing for the inspection. Before you begin, you and Mac must make sure that you have your permit book. Check that all permits are up to date and do the following. Check the vehicle identification number to verify that you are inspecting the correct vehicle. Make sure there is a valid registration sticker on the license plate and a valid annual inspection sticker on the driver's side window. Chock your wheels to prevent the vehicle from rolling. Put on protective equipment such as gloves and safety glasses. Turn off the engine and keep the keys with you as you begin. Make sure you use the safety latches on the hood so it does not fall on you. Pay extra attention to this on windy days. Using the right tools. When you complete an inspection, the tools you should have available include service brake application tool to hold the brake pedal down, tarp strap for applying the trailer service brake, tire pressure gauge, tire depth gauge, flashlight and/or headlight, gloves, protective headgear, bump cap, safety glasses, cloth for cleaning, inspection checklist, contact number and name for questions. Step 1. Approach the vehicle. Your inspection should always begin as you approach the vehicle. As you approach, check the following. There are no hazards that may cause damage to the vehicle or be damaged by the vehicle. Look for anything on the ground that might damage your tires, such as glass or nails sticking out of boards. Look out for low-hanging wires, low-hanging branches, or anything that you might hit as you drive away. Always watch for people and other vehicles. There are no visible leaks underneath the vehicle: fuel, oil, power steering fluid, coolant, windshield washer fluid. Check under the vehicle for puddles of fresh oil, engine coolant, grease, or fuel. That the vehicle is not leaning to one side. Leans can be a flat steer tire, any part of the suspension, or load shift from a fast turn or sudden stop. When your vehicle is sagging to one side, there may be flat tires, insecure cargo, suspension problems, or overloading. The general condition of the vehicle, including windshield, wipers, hood, grille, mirrors, lights, antennas, fairing, bumper, and license plate. Look for chipped, cracked, or broken lights or glass anywhere on the vehicle as you approach, as well as signs of damage or problems with general cleanliness. All lights should be the proper color as per the regulations. The windshield wipers should be properly mounted and secured. The blades are tight against the windshield, and the rubber should not be cracked or dry rotted. The license plate should be current and securely mounted with all bolts secured. Step 2. The engine area. As you and Mac inspect both the driver and passenger side of the engine, you will move around the front of the vehicle. As you go, use your cloth to clean off mirrors, lamps, and reflectors. Check that the following are properly mounted and secure, and that they have no cracks, abrasions, or other damage. Signal lights, headlamps, and reflectors. Lights should also not have any condensation. Present. Mirrors. All mirrors should be clean, free from cracks, and properly attached in position. Vehicle body. Check the vehicle body for cracks, abrasions, and damage. Bumper area and license plate. Check for damage and a valid license sticker. Grille area. Check that the grille is secure and undamaged. All bolts should be present, and there should be no obstructions. The hood latches should be present and secure, and should hold the hood closed. When there is a missing or inoperative hood latch or safety cab lock, there is a defect. Note: combine your vehicle inspection with a CT-PAT inspection by also checking for any signs of tampering or hidden compartments. Fluids, belts, and hoses. All engines are configured differently, and you and Mac may have different approaches to inspecting them. Some people start from the passenger side, and some from the driver's side. In this course, we will look at the main systems that must be checked, but the order in which you do this is up to you as a professional driver. Mac starts from the driver's side and moves to the passenger side. First, let's review the fluids that you and Mac must check during an inspection. Make sure that all caps are tight and secure during this check. They include the following. Oil. Check your engine oil with a dipstick that is in good condition. Pull the dipstick out, clean it, and then read it. Do not add oil unless the oil is at the add mark. Note: always make sure your vehicle is on level ground when you check the oil so that you get an accurate reading. Power steering fluid. Power steering lines should be securely connected with no leaks. When you can't see the power steering fluid level, use the dipstick to measure it. The power steering fluid reservoir should be between minimum and maximum, and the cap should be tight. Windshield washer fluid. Make sure that the windshield washer fluid is topped up, especially when you know that you will be driving inclement weather. Coolant. Make sure that the coolant level is between the add and full marks. As you proceed through the inspection, make sure you check all belts should be free of cracks, frays, and other signs of excessive wear. You should not be able to move them any more than half to 3/4 inch, 1.252 centimeter, from side to side. Hoses and clamps. Check that all hoses are connected properly and have no abrasions, cuts, or other damage. Clamps must be secure and undamaged as well. Wires. Check the wiring to the headlights is in good condition. There should be no bare wires or loose ends. Engine components. Let's look at the other parts of the engine area that you and Mac must inspect before heading out. They include the truck frame and inner hood. Check for any missing bolts in the frame. When any rust is showing around the bolts, this can indicate that the bolt is loose or there is a crack in the area. Make sure that the frame is not twisted or cracked. Check the truck frame from both sides, driver's side and passenger side of the engine. As you inspect the engine, check the inner part of the hood to make sure that there is no damage. Steering system. The steering system, located on the driver's side of the vehicle, has multiple components that must be inspected. The steering shaft, gearbox, and pitman arm should all be properly mounted and secure. All castle nuts, cotter pins, bolts, and ball joints should be present and tight. The steering shaft should have upper and lower universal joints that are well lubricated. Twist the steering shaft to make sure there is no excessive steering lash or play. Air compressor, hoses, and air lines. Make sure that the air compressor is securely mounted with no air leaks. The air lines must be secure and undamaged. The hoses connected to the air compressor should have no cuts, abrasions, bubbles, dry rot, or leaks. Separate the lines with your hands to check all around along the entire length. Radiator, air intake, and water pump. Check the radiator to make sure that it is free of dents or damage. All parts should be properly secured. Make sure that the air intake system is not worn or damaged on either side of the engine. The clamps should be tight with no leaks. The rubber should not be dry or cracked. The water pump should be securely mounted with no leaks. Fan. Check each blade of the fan for nicks and chips that indicate that the fan might be rubbing against another component. Check the fan from both sides, driver's side and passenger's side, of the engine compartment. Exhaust. Check the general condition of the entire exhaust system. The muffler should not be cracked or damaged. The exhaust should be properly attached with straps or bolts. The exhaust should not have any signs of damage or leaks, such as black soot around the clamps. Air and fuel filters. Check the air filter housing for any damage or cracks. When you have an air filter gauge, check it to see whether your air filter needs to be changed. Check inside the air filter housing for any debris. Note, always check inside the air filter housing for contraband during a CT Patit security inspection. Check the fuel filter to see if it needs to be changed. Suspension and brakes. Parts of the suspension and brake systems are located throughout the vehicle and must be checked at each location. In the engine area, you will check the suspension system and brakes around each of the steer tires. Suspension system. Check the following on both the driver and passenger side of the vehicle. Leaf springs. Check for cracks, breaks, and shifted or missing leaves. Damaged leaves can cause damage to tires, rims, or the vehicle frame, so make sure they are properly aligned. Look for any signs of rubbing. All locking pins and safety clamps should be in the proper position and secure. Look for cracks, rust, or shiny spots that indicate excessive wear. Air ride suspension. If you have air ride suspension, check that airbags are properly inflated, mounted, and secured at both ends with no missing bolts. They should be free of damage with no abrasions, cuts, or bulges. Spring mounts. Spring mounts should be securely mounted and undamaged. Check the spring pins, spring brackets, and torque arms for cracks, bends, or missing bolts. U-bolts. Check for wear, slack, damage, or signs of welding repair. Welding is not acceptable for U-bolt repair. Tap them lightly with your hammer to make sure they are secure. The nuts should be tight. Shock absorbers. Check each shock absorber for leaks or other damage. Make sure they are secure. Brake system. As you inspect the driver and passenger sides, listen for any audible air leaks and check the following. Brake drums, hoses, and shoes. Look for damaged, missing, rusted, or worn brake drums, hoses, and shoes. Brake shoes should be evenly adjusted. Brake lining. Look for damage to the brake lining. It should not be less than 1/4 inch (0.635 centimeters) and should be free of oil, grease, and debris. Slack adjuster and push rod stroke indicators. Check that the slack adjuster is secure and look for any damage. Make sure your brakes are within the adjustment limits defined by your brake chamber's size and type. Check with SH Logistics for more information on the adjustment limits for your specific vehicle. Wheels, rims, and tires. Lastly, in the engine area, check your steer tires along with your wheels and rims. Tires. Remember, your tires will lose at least 2 psi per week and more during colder months. Check the tires on both the driver and passenger side for the following. Inflation. Check the tire's inflation with a pressure gauge to get precise measurements. Some vehicles have tire pressure monitoring systems that will tell you when a tire is low. Condition. Move your hands over the tire to check its condition on both the inner and outer side. Make sure there are no abrasions, bubble, cuts, or dry rot. Depth. The steer tires should have no less than 4/32 of an inch tread depth on a major groove, and it should be evenly worn. Wheels. Check the wheels and rims on both the driver and passenger sides of the vehicle for the following. Tightness of lug nuts. Remove any covers and check the tightness of each lug nut. To speed up the process, do it 2 at a time. Missing parts. Look for any missing parts, including fasteners, spacers, studs, lugs, clamps, and missing or damaged lock rings. Signs of looseness. Check for any rust streaks or other signs of wheel looseness. Hub oil level. Check the hub oil level if you have a sight glass. Steps 3 and 5. Driver and passenger sides of the vehicle. The 3rd and 5th steps in your vehicle inspection are the driver's and passenger sides of the tractor and are essentially the same. Check that the vehicle's body is free of dents, abrasions, or other damage, as well as the following items. Mirrors and glass. All mirrors and glass should be clean, free from cracks, and properly attached at position. The viewing area must be clean and free of dirt, stickers, discoloration. Factory tints to reduce glare are permitted. Door operation. Open and close the cab doors on each side. Make sure each door opens normally. More importantly, make sure each door closes properly and securely. Grab handles and steps. Check that the steps are not cracked or damaged and that they are properly bolted to the vehicle. Grab handles should be securely attached as well. Storage compartments. You must be able to open and close compartments on both sides of the tractor. For additional security, these compartments should be locked. Emergency equipment. Make sure you have the required warning devices, safety triangles, or flares. A properly mounted fire extinguisher of at least 5 BC, 10 BC if your cargo contains placarded hazardous materials. The fire extinguisher gauge must be in the green zone, about 100 to 175 psi. Battery. Check that the battery is securely mounted and the terminals are not corroded. Check for any loose wires and secure electrical connections to your spark plugs. Fuel tanks and DF. The fuel tank should be mounted securely with no leaks or visible damage. Make sure fuel straps are not cracked or damaged. Caps and gaskets should in place and secure. Remove the cap to make sure that the safety seal is not damaged and has no abrasions or cuts. Make sure that the fuel tank is not leaking. Check that the DEF is secure and undamaged and the cap is tight. Air tanks. Check the air tanks for any damage and listen for air leaks. Drain the supply tank until it discharges only clean air. Drain the remaining tanks as well. Watch the discharge from the air tanks and ensure that the drain valves function properly. Note, during a CT pad inspection, you should be looking for any concealed contraband or false compartments in these locations. Step 4. The rear of the tractor. The next step in your inspection is to examine the rear of your tractor. Mack looks at 3 main areas: the back of the cab, the coupling area, and the rear of the tractor. As you and Mack walk around the back of the tractor, remember to inspect all lights, as well as the tires, wheels, air brakes, slack adjusters, airbags, and suspension. Back of the cab. General condition. Check for any general cracks or damage, loose bearings and brackets. There should be no intrusions, i.e., nothing poking into the cab, and no damage to fairings. All ties, straps, and chains should be secure and not loose or freely hanging. Lights and reflectors should be the correct colors and properly functioning. Catwalk. Make sure that the catwalk and frame rails are not cracked, damaged, or loose. There should be no sign of illegal welds or loose objects. Air hoses and electrical lines. Lines and hoses should be in good condition and have sufficient clearance so they do not come into contact with the frame or catwalk. They should not be tangled, snagged, or rubbing against anything. Check the entire length of the air hoses and electrical lines. They should not be cut, spliced, cracked, chafed, pinched, or excessively worn. Steel braid should not show through. Remove the glad hands to make sure they do not have abrasions, bumps, or cuts inside. They should be securely attached and properly connected. Listen for any air leaks. Check the electrical line for damage. Make sure that none of the prongs are bent and that there is no debris stuck inside. Coupling area. Dual tires. When inspecting dual tires, check for inflation, condition, and tread depth the same way as you check the front tires. The tread depth for dual tires should be at least 2/32 of an inch. Remember to check that dual tires are not touching and have nothing lodged between them. If equipped, check that spacers are not bent, rusted through, or show other signs of damage. Fifth wheel. Make sure that the hitch release handle is in place and securely latched. The release arm should be secure and in the locked position. Check that the fifth wheel is securely mounted to the platform with a platform pin and that there are no loose or missing bolts. Make sure the platform pin and skid plate are not cracked, damaged, bent, or broken. Check the locking jaws for any damage and that they are open. Rear of the tractor. Mud flaps and truck frame. Check that the mud flaps are not excessively worn or torn and they hang down to at least the center of the axle. They should be securely mounted with no loose or missing nuts bolts. Continue to check the truck frame for any damage as well as loose or missing bolts. Drive shaft, differential, torque arm, and airbags. Check that the drive shaft, differential, and torque arm are properly mounted and secure. They should not be cracked, bent, broken, or twisted. The U-joints should be free of any debris and damage. Airbags should be properly inflated, mounted, and secured at both ends with no missing bolts. They should be free of damage with no abrasions, cuts, or bulges. Lights and reflectors. Check all parking lights, turn indicators and reflectors at the back of the tractor for any cracks, damage, or condensation. If you have a light above the rear license plate, check that as well. They should all be working normally. Step 6. The cab area. In this step, you and Mac will inspect the interior of the cab. When you get into the cab, adjust your seat and put on your seatbelt. Make sure that both are functioning normally. Then check the following. Pedals. Check the brake and accelerator pedals to make sure everything is working properly and there is nothing blocking them. If driving a manual, check the clutch free play. It should be no more than 2 to 3 inches. Check the shifter for cracks or damage. Gauges and controls. Start the truck and check all gauges to make sure they are functioning properly. Check the following. Steering wheel. The steering wheel should be responding normally and there should be no excessive free play. Horns. Both the service and air horns should operate normally. Washer and wipers. Washer and wipers should function normally. Wipers should not be missing, damaged, or cracked. They should be able to clear your field of vision. Heater and defroster. The heater and defroster should be functioning normally, and the defroster should be able to clear your field of vision. Mirrors and interior lights. Make sure mirrors are not cracked, broken, or damaged, and that they are adjusted properly. They should be securely fastened to the vehicle body with no cracks or damage. Test turn indicators and then turn on all lights, including hazards and brights. All interior lights should be functioning normally. Note, when your vehicle has ABS, check that your ABS light comes on briefly when you start the engine. If the ABS light does not come on or stays on, there is a defect. Once you have checked these items, perform the in-cab brake tests. Mac has already inspected the condition of all his exterior lights and reflectors. He has also checked the pushrod indicators for each of his air brake chambers while the brakes were released. Now, he can turn on his lights and make a brake application. He can now inspect the following: exterior lights and audible air loss. Shut down the truck and turn the key to the on position to test the exterior lights and listen for any air loss. Turn on your lights, exit the vehicle, and check that the following are functioning normally: headlights and brights, signal lights and four-way, lights at the rear of the cab, tail lights. When you are alone, use a service brake application tool to make a brake application and check your brake lights. While you are checking your brake lights, also listen for any audible air leaks as you walk to the back of the cab. Brake adjustment, pushrod stroke. You should already know your brake chamber size and type, so now you can check that each pushrod stroke is within regulation stroke limits. If you have visual stroke indicators, make sure the pin is in the center of the two posts. If you do not have indicators, measure the distance from the mark you made at the base of the brake chamber to determine the stroke length. Topic 3. Review. Inspecting the truck. Mac has now completed the first part of his inspection, his truck. He approached the vehicle and took note of any signs of leaks, whether it was leaning to one side and the general condition of the vehicle. He then checked that the vehicle inspection sticker and the plate registration sticker were valid. He put on protective gloves and began with the front of the vehicle, looking at the condition of lights, reflectors, mirrors, the bumper area, and grille. He proceeded to then do an engine inspection and checked components on both the left and right sides of the engine. These components included fluids, belts, hoses, as well as the steering, air and exhaust, suspension and cooling systems. For each axle, Mac inspected the brake and suspension systems, as well as the wheels and tires. He checked the inflation, condition, and tread depth of each tire, and checked each wheel for secure fasteners and signs of leaks. On the driver and passenger sides of the vehicle, Mac inspected the doors and storage compartments, as well as the steps and handholds. He inspected the air tanks, fuel tanks, and battery to make sure they were secure and not leaking. He continued to the rear of the vehicle to check the catwalk, hoses, and other components to make sure they were secure and undamaged. Finally, Mac did his in-cab inspection, putting on his seatbelt and checking all gauges, pedals, and controls. He then applied his brakes and turned on his lights to do a final walk-around to check that the pushrod stroke of all brakes was within adjustment limits and that all lights were operating normally.